Okay, we're on. Coming to you just a minute or two late. Welcome to the Shabbos show. Early Shabbat Shalom. We've had special guests and special guests and special guests, and today, woo, we got a heavy hitter. We're really excited. Kara Mendelson. Well, this says everything about her to start with. You always hope that people in service are accessible. And Kara, I would say that about you. What I see you on Dallas Jewish Moms hunting for things that a family needs. Actually, not the Jewish community, but very near. And we really appreciate that. And we appreciate you saying yes today and joining us.
Well, I think this is a great show. I love that that you celebrate this even virtually, but I'm happy to do it and I'm happy to serve. And I think that is actually our obligation as public servants to be accessible. So, we have not planned what we're going to talk about very well or very deeply. So I think I just said, ask me anything and let's just see how it goes.
That's great.
What a great way to start. So this is easy. Here's a softball question. You've always been involved with Tikkun Olam. You've always cared about the single person helping the community. And so how did you get involved in that?
You know what? I do think that charitable acts have been part of my life growing up. With my mother as a child, I'd go deliver Meals on Wheels. When I was growing up in high school, I was a member of Beth Torah. And for USY, the first position I held was doing social action. And we set up programs to go to Golden Acres back in the day and play games with the people. Little did I know that later my grandparents would live there. And actually, that's how my husband and I met. So I was only 13. He was almost 16. And we've now been married over 32 years. So so how
and
have I
remind us what his name is?
Barry.
What a great name.
Good taste, right? And I'll tell you that I never realized as a teenager, or even through college, that this could actually be a career. So I ended up with a business degree at UT, and I went into human resources, had a great career, had kids, ended up staying home for a while, and was so involved in so many nonprofits that finally my Barry looks at me and he goes, you could probably get a job doing this. And I thought, I probably could. So then I went into it professionally and was a director for, I was the chair for the Collin County Homeless Coalition. I was a director of a homeless shelter. I actually went to go work for Meals on Wheels and I was a director there. And then my last job before council was I was an executive director for a group called Rebuilding Together that does free home repair for low-income seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. So that's sort of the professional side. I would say in the Jewish community, though, I'm a past president for Jewish Family Service, served on that board for 15 years. And that was, just an incredible, amazing experience. And then probably most notably in the community is I've been a serial PTA president, and one of those was the PTA president of all of the Plano ISD schools.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
36,000 members and
wow.
69 PTAs. So anyhow, done some fun things.
Well, let's see. I'm going to bring up an author and read a paragraph to kind of set the stage for the rest of the segment, and put my glasses on. This paragraph, more than any other, makes me feel ready for Sukkot,
Okay.
which we all, the three of us know, begins at sundown, and our audience is like, yep. So this is a pretty special Shabbat. So the book I'm reading from, it's one really good paragraph. This book is called This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared. The Days of Awe is a Journey of Transformation by Rabbi Alan Liu. And he was phenomenal. He's deceased now, but his words are, if you're looking for something that's really going to grab you and is very deep, but also easily accessible, it's Rabbi Liu. Sukkot. The stars are shining on the top of my head. The wind is in my hair. A few drops of rain are falling into my soup, but the soup is still warm. I am sitting in a sukkah, a booth with branches draped across the top, which I have erected in my backyard. A deep joy is seeping out from the core of my being and filling me, body and soul. It began as a kind of lightness. I felt it as soon as the shofar was sounded to signal the end of Yom Kippur. There were 3 stars in the sky then. I felt all the weight, all the heaviness of the day, all the death and the judgment and the yearning, all the soulful thrashing and beating of breasts, falling away all at once, suddenly gone. I felt light and clean. And when we were talking with Kara about coming on, we thought what a celebration this would be this Shabbat, having finished Yom Kippur.
Yes.
And we don't have a moment. We don't have a moment. We're like, where's the fake fruit? Where's the etrog?
No, it's all real.
And so here we are with you for this really exciting Shabbat.
So Sukkot is one of my favorite holidays, just so you know, and it is also the weekend that I had my bat mitzvah. So I think you're going to talk about a Torah portion, which is actually the portion from my day. So I think that's all Bashir, right? Meant to be together.
Very exciting. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
I just always wonder, with all of the activities and all of the things that you are doing in service to your community, is it hard to fit in your Judaism within all of that? Your busy schedule and high holy days, and you just had that. I'd love to hear about any of that.
Well, I think Judaism is practiced differently by different people. And so I grew up pretty observant. We kept kosher back before there were any kosher butchers in town, and had meat shipped in, and had a co-op and all of that. My grandparents were extremely Orthodox, and we were conservative. And right now we're not even affiliated. So something weird's in between there. I don't really fit into any one location. We celebrate Shabbat every week at our home, and before Jeffrey Lehner passed, he would often come to our house to lead high holiday services for me and a number of unaffiliated friends.
Okay.
So we've sort of tried to carve out a space that fits us, and it's weird. So, but to me, the soul of being Jewish is really in how you live your life, and taking the lessons that we learn through all different kinds of texts and putting them into action. And so, in the end, I think that's how we're judged. Great to have good thoughts, but even more so to actually do good deeds. And so that is my ultimate goal, is always to try to be the best person I can. And sometimes, often don't fall short of that. So, just keep trying to get better.
Well, I process everything, a lot of things, with pencil and writing, and I wish I had had a pencil just then, because I love how you said that from the text and putting it into action and not just the thoughts. And I know this about you. Like, a lot of people will say things, or they, whatever, but I've read your bio also, and I know how you feel in particular about homelessness. And this is a real good time as we sit here and we talk about, and we were talking about this right before we pushed the button to invite our audience in. First off, Barry and I have this brick house, like the 3 little pigs you think of, and we're like, okay, brick house, we got this, right? And then the tornado came. Mm-hmm. And it really messed with our idea of shelter and what we think we have. And then there's been, every Sukkot, we're like, well, let's try to go eat in the backyard a few years ago. But we eat in the backyard now during quarantine regularly. Because if we want to see a friend or have a social life or even be with our grandchildren, we're in our backyards. And this notion of shelter just keeps shifting like crazy. But a lot of that is a luxury for Barry and I. Are we in our backyard? Are we in our home? Can we construct something, Tell us a little bit about homelessness, what you've encountered, what we could take away from you today?
Wow. Well, it's a very big topic, probably more to say than we can do today. But what I'll say is this, that just as you're reconsidering what does it mean to have a home and what does it mean to have shelter, we all are reconsidering what is our life about and how are we living our life. And for me, at a very early age, I wondered, why does that man live on the street? Why can't he come to our house? We had a very large house. We had empty bedrooms. Couldn't he just live there? And I was like, no, can't. But why? Right? Why do we have all these resources for some, and some people literally with nothing? And how does that happen? And what are we doing to fix it? Mm-hmm. And you know, there's not one answer. There's not one reason that that person is on the street. It's really complex. And if there was one reason, we would fix it. And if there was one solution, it would already be done. So people like to think they know all the reasons. When I was the director of the homeless shelter, what you found is that just as people have their own personalities and their own situations, every person that came in the homeless shelter had their own unique reason that they ended up there. However, you could sort of lump them into general causes, right? This is generational poverty. This is domestic violence. This is drug addiction. This is a mental health issue. This is situational homelessness. But generally, it's a series of unfortunate events. And if it was one thing, people have a resilience to be able to recover, but it's when it's thing after thing after thing. And sometimes we would call it the 3Ds. We would call it drugs, death, or divorce. And that was always like the tipping point. Like all the other things were built up, but man, once that just, right, the last straw. Mm. So there are things that you could do today to help one person, right? And sometimes we think giving, $20 to a guy at an intersection is going to solve it. It's not. I beg you not to do it. You are more likely to be giving them their last dose of drugs before they overdose. Don't do it. Take the $20, give it to a nonprofit that can actually provide the kinds of services that will let them regain their independence and dignity. So it is not charitable to give to panhandlers. Please don't do it. That's the first thing I'm going to say. The other thing is that when other panhandlers see that somebody has cash, they're going to get jumped. There's violence involved. So you're really not doing anything good. What can you do? Really, I'd ask you to get involved with some of the really outstanding nonprofits that we have in town. I'm so proud to tell you this. I have to get this in. That having been involved in the homeless situation in Dallas for a long time, I was the first vice chair of our homeless commission. I was on the mayor's task force on homelessness. I was on the steering committee for the continuum of care for 2 years. The thing that you really need to know is that this year Dallas has stepped up like it hasn't in 15 years to do something to actually address homelessness, putting millions of dollars into rapid rehousing, which will immediately put somebody in an apartment with wraparound services. The time period for the wraparound services is 16 months, and we have never done that before in Dallas. Wow. So that's huge. It's really, really remarkable. We've opened up inclement weather sheltering. So every year before this past year, there have been people that have literally frozen to death in Dallas, Texas in the winter because they were homeless and had nowhere to go. So this year, people had somewhere to go, zero deaths. Oh. So something to really be proud of. There's a veterans challenge going on right now for our homeless veterans. We've got a focus on not solving homelessness. I hate when people say that, but with the CARES funding that we received, over $230 million, the city has said we are going to put a homeless shelter in every single council district. And so I know I'm super far north. You're sitting in 11, which is Lee Kleiman. There'll be a homeless shelter in my district. There will be a homeless shelter here. Now, everyone will have a different focus. In my district, we're looking at family homelessness because we have family homelessness already. They're mostly living in motels, but the kids are already in school. Mm-hmm. The people generally are working, right? So when you go and check out at the grocery store, that might be somebody who's homeless. Right? So I think the city is going to actually step up to do the things that we're supposed to do. So just as we serve you as a resident, someone who's homeless is also a resident and most definitely in need of services. So I'm really proud of that. And, you know, I think a lot of people say, yeah, we don't want homelessness, but then when it comes down to it, it's like, oh, wait, where's it going to be? Right? There's a little bit of that concern. And when it's done right, I think it's fine. I think we're gonna see some real success. That's my phone. I'm so sorry. What if I come over here and just get rid of that?
It follows you.
There we go.
Just like the press.
So sorry. So anyhow, I just think that's something that the whole city can really be proud of, and hopefully it will also alleviate some of the panhandling issues that we've seen that are just, growing incrementally. Maybe not incrementally.
Well, I love that because you are the perfect person to have here in this shelter. So if you can't see, we have pergola, and we can see the 3 stars in the sky tonight. And, we have a little bit of shelter on the sides of us and a place to eat and all of that. And so as we're thankful for this, for ourselves, we have you to give us information that I haven't heard quite that way before. Mm-hmm. And so for Barry and I, a couple of folks, we've gotten really good at doing the food drives. We did with JFS the diaper drive last week, which was phenomenal. We got in our car and we're like, we get it. This is concrete. I can do this right now. Diapers in my trunk, driving through, food. Give us something like that as a couple of Dallas residents who we want to take away something that we could do today. How could we help?
Well, I'm going to say, first off, you can contact any of the shelters and see if you could sponsor a meal. So pre-COVID, you could go in and you could help serve it. You could connect with the people. What it means for the people who are experiencing homelessness to see people care about them that aren't paid, it's really touching. And they're like, why are you here? Why do you care? And it means something. So being able to volunteer in that way and financially support it, this is a great way to be involved. Right now, they're not doing it, so that's not an option. As families are going through this rapid rehousing challenge, right, as we're trying to house so many people, there may be additional needs. So we have a couple of different vendors. You and I had talked about Under One Roof is one of them. This is a nonprofit I've been involved with for a long time. They are doing so much in terms of the heavy mental health services to help the families regain that independence. And they're looking for people to help them. And so that could be serving on a board, that could be helping run an event, that could be doing outreach and mentoring. And I'm happy to connect you. Verna Jones is executive director, and she is just one of the most engaging and interesting executive directors that I have seen out there. Not because she's a giant fundraiser, but because she's actually a social worker, and she's all about the program, and she's all about making sure that awesome. The kids and the families are successful. She's also a huge mentor to a whole social work program for A&M Commerce. Okay. And so I'd love to give her a shout out. If anyone watching is interested in serving on a board like that, they're really doing excellent work. So
that's phenomenal.
We'll just
and really good, and hopefully some of us are getting some takeaway from this. And in everything you're describing, no matter how you get around it or what you would think, that is taking the text. That's not us just studying it. That's us putting it into practice and into play. It's nice that we're talking about it. And it's nice that we're educating ourselves and you're educating us and our audience. But we have to take those next steps to make a difference in Dallas.
Well, so I don't know if you asked me about homelessness because you're interested or because I am. But I would say this to you. Anything that you are passionate about, there's a way to help improve the community by serving. And you should find the thing that speaks to you. So if you love seniors, if you love children, there's limitless needs in the community. Like, everybody needs help. And not just financial, they actually need you to help them. And I do think that now that COVID's gone on for so long, there's a rethinking of how can we engage volunteers without actually having them come in. And because we're doing so much work to connect people who have been disconnected. So about 25% of Dallas has not had a connection, a wireless connection or a wired connection to the internet. So as we're taking care of that aspect, we're able to take people who have been isolated, who have not had exposure to a lot of businesses, to a lot of opportunities, and being able to pair them as a mentor is a huge, huge way to really elevate our whole community. So I think there's a benefit for both sides in that conversation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Really good to know. All right.
I think it's a great segue into the Torah portion this week because, well, you mentioned this was your Torah portion.
Well, so then let me frame it to you this way.
Okay.
So this can be your beginning. How about that? Is that a good segue for you?
That's even a better segue. So this week, as Kara mentioned, she gave her Torah portion. So this week coincides, the Shabbat coincides with Sukkot starting, which means that we go back to a traditional reading of the Torah on Sukkot, which is, we go all the way back to Leviticus. Don't freak out. We're not going all the way back now. We're still in Deuteronomy. Okay?
They're freaking out.
Okay. So we just go back temporarily, right? Temporary dwellings, and this portion basically just tells us and gives us instructions on how to celebrate this holiday of Sukkot. It begins with God telling Moses to tell the Israelites that on the 15th day of the 7th month that we are to build structures to remind us of the 40 years that the Israelites just wandered in the desert, right? They wandered then, and also to remind us to bring fruit, 4 species, the willow, the palm, the myrtle, along with the etrog. Now, this etrog is it's not ripe yet, but when it gets ripe, it will be yellow, and it smells like really more fun than a lemon. And you shake it, and you hope for rain, and it's really kind of a cool holiday. But the question I always have is Sukkot, Sukkah. So how in the world does this come into play with this week's Torah portion? And you just go back a little bit to Exodus. And Exodus, Moses is about to go down with the tablets. Remember they did the golden calf. He had to go back and get new tablets. He's coming back. He's in the cave, and God, he says, "I want to see what you look like, God." And God says, "Well," he goes by him, but as he goes by him and he sees his back, he uses his hand as a ve'sakatai, divine protection or a shelter. He shelters Moses from seeing him. And so that's basically where the word shelter, ve'sakatai, means. And so we look at this temporary structure. And the paradox of Sukkot is that we have these temporary structures could collapse any moment. Now, of course, I built that so it could collapse even quicker than that. But we also are supposed to have joy in this holiday. So I guess the message this week is to say to remind ourselves about how precious not just our beings are, but especially with Kara being here, our homes and our possessions. And they could be temporary. And so the more temporary they are, maybe the more precious they become. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasher Koach. Very lovely. Well, a couple of things. One is, do you want to see the challah?
Oh, yeah, well, the challah.
Let me go get it.
Kara, I forget the challah every week. I write it down. I put it in my brain. I could put it in my palm of my hand to remind myself, but I always forget. So.
Well, I was going to say, what a lovely Dvar Torah. What also is temporary is our lives. And I will say, especially in a time of COVID, I think that is very evident to all of us.
Oh, it's so true.
And what you make of your life is really up to you. And you might get set into certain roles and certain routines, but you have the opportunity to change it. And you have the opportunity to make the difference that you probably want to. And if you're not sure how to get connected, I'm happy to help you.
And you are easy to access. You are ready to help.
Send me a message. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
mean it.
happy. I do mean it. And I think that it's part of our gifts of life is to be able to help others. And there's a huge satisfaction in that. But it's not too late for anybody. It doesn't matter how
Right.
old you are, doesn't matter how young you are. Young people can make a huge, huge impact on an issue, and it is never too late. So I hope that I hope you'll be inspired by your great words to act and to make a difference somehow.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
All
look
right.
at that.
There it is. Now, I'm going to bake it in probably 30 minutes. It's doing pretty good today. All
It's
right.
huge.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's
It's a
beautiful.
really nice one. And it's not round for the first time in a week or two, you know?
It smells good.
$20. So how far can $20 go to feeding a family?
Well, North Texas Food Bank says they can feed a family for 50 cents. So that's 40 meals then. The reason they can do that, and this is the difference, right? If you want to go to Costco and load up and give it to them, they're going to be happy to take it. But what you're paying is retail, even at Costco. And what they do is they buy it from the source directly, and they also get a discount. So they can spend your money way better than you can, and no schlepping.
No schlepping. No schlepping.
So you don't get the satisfaction of like teaching your kids a lesson. You don't get the satisfaction of actually giving it yourself.
Right.
But if you take that time to explain to kids economics, this is another chance to learn something. And so that financial gift to especially the food pantries is so important. On the other hand, they don't get diapers. So diapers is a great thing to buy on your own.
Diapers and wipes, yeah.
And same thing, wipes, sanitary pads for women. A lot of homeless shelters will not take tampons, just so you know, because there's toilet issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
just
good,
so you know.
though. Yeah.
Anybody who wants to do like these blessing bags, I'm just going to dissuade you from doing that. If you've ever driven to an intersection and there's a lot of trash, if you look closely, it's a lot of the stuff from the blessing bag. So it's not really a blessing to the neighborhood. So giving in a way that actually helps is important, and giving in a way that actually doesn't hurt other things. So you would not want to have all that trash in your neighborhood, is all I'm going to say.
True.
So there's a lot of things you can do with $20. And $20 is pretty close to an hour's worth of social work care and client management for most nonprofits. So, don't underestimate that $20 means something to the nonprofits.
Right.
It really does.
Well, you're taking us right into, we wanted to do something for you, because you really are busy, and we know that you want to get home and have your own Shabbat, and it's the end of a work week, and we're, on the heels of Yom Kippur. A lot has been going on, but we actually, and it's hard to get the lulav and the etrog
I
right
was
now.
surprised, yeah.
And these are yours
What?
to take home. These are yours. We always give gifts,
Oh my gosh.
but knowing you as we do, and these
you
are
know
yours.
that I didn't
We
order
know-
mine in time?
Well, no, but we know that you don't really want you don't really want a lot of gifts.
I
So
know
we
that.
heard your servant heart, and Barry and I have a tradition, as a commandment, and we're all good about this, right? That we give our tzedakah before we light the candles, and so we wanted you to see our envelope.
Love
Right.
that.
And so this is under one roof. And I had said to Kara, of everyone that we could work with or that we could give a donation to, what's close to your heart? Under one roof on Southampton Road, and we're going to put it in the mail when we're
Okay,
done.
and I just am going to have to say, Jewish Family Service is of course.
Mhm.
So I will always support JFS. JFS is just
Absolutely.
absolutely one of the most professional leading agencies in the city. And anybody who's ever volunteered there, donated there, you should be extremely proud of what's happening at Jewish Family Service. So, although I said under one roof, I think we were talking homelessness.
Yes, and that's
I just
and
have
that's,
to say,
and that's what today's segment
Right,
really
okay.
was about, was homelessness. And like I said, Barry and I just drove through, and we did diapers, and our daughter Liz works for
Yes.
JFS, and very close to our heart too. But where homelessness is concerned,
yes.
I was really happy to learn of an organization that works hard to incorporate all people in need as far as that's concerned too. And we know you're concerned about many issues, not simply homelessness.
Correct.
And we don't question your love
Well,
of JFS
I just
at
have
all.
to throw that out there because they are so close to my heart. You may not know this, and probably most of you don't know this, but I actually was adopted through Jewish Family Service as a baby. And to have grown up to been board president is
Wow.
kind of an extraordinary circle
Wow.
of life moment.
Mm.
And yeah, and so JFS helped my grandparents. When my mother passed away, my grandmother was extremely distraught, and so helped her with some of the grief and counseling she needed there. She ended up needing some other assistance that they were able to help with kosher meals because she did keep kosher. So, I just, that's always going to be my number one agency for anything, but for homelessness, I'm so proud of the work that's happening at Under One Roof. That thank you so much for your generosity, and thank you for building community. That's really the most important thing that I think happens, and I love that you're doing this.
Well, I wouldn't know you up close and personal if it wasn't for Dallas Jewish Moms, the Facebook group. And Carol be like, does anybody have a couch, a bed? I'm looking for a this, I'm looking for a this. And so you're not just back behind in the big boardrooms, you're scrounging. And I love that about you. I love that you do this work with your feet, and you impress me so much. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to spend some time in our backyard.
Well, this is a lovely backyard, by the way, and I think we can all help in big ways and small ways. So that's
Wow.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hag Sameach.
Hag Sameach. Very nice day.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, too.
This is wonderful.
Let's see. Jason Minsky says, hi, Kara,
Hey,
Debbie,
Jason.
and Barry. Good Shabbos to all. And I can see, let's see, Stephanie, Rez, and Steve. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. See you
Shabbat
next
Shalom.
week.